I feel like this happened so quickly. Hello everyone, I'm Alanah or Alanah, and we have finally reached the end of the first season of The Last of Us on HBO. I feel like this happened very, very fast. And I have thoughts. So I guess this episode, where I do this like recap, will be a review of the finale, but also how it ties into the whole season, so you can count this as my whole season review. Spoilers, of course. So the finale is all roads leading forward to a pretty divisive decision that I think was handled both very well and, you know, there are just some changes that I would have liked. Certainly don't think I could do it any better. And my overall thing with this show is I feel like it's such a good adaptation of a video game. It gets to the heart of the video game in a way that most adaptations absolutely fail to. I was so apprehensive going in and so worried that they wouldn't deliver the core experience of The Last of Us, and I really feel like they did. This is such a well-made show, so well produced, very well written, brilliantly acted. I really hope that all of the people who were critical of Bella Ramsey understand why she was cast now, because there was so much criticism thrown her way, and I feel like she just did a beautiful job. So, for the most part, very happy. Glad to have watched it. Had a great time. My lingering concern is one that I think has been with me through all of these episodes, which is I just wish it were a little bit longer so that we had a little bit more time with Joel and Ellie. I do think this episode showing us a little bit about Ellie's origins was interesting. Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie, plays Ellie's mother, which was actually really cool to see, and I think she's a fantastic actress. She's just incredible and seems like such a good person from everything I know about her as well. So happy to see her there. And so we open with this very frantic childbirth scene where somebody is giving birth while fighting off an infected, which is probably the least realistic thing that's happened in the show at this point. Like definitely well, I doubt it, but okay. And she is bitten before severing the umbilical cord, which is how Ellie, in theory, at least this is what it leads us to believe, becomes immune to the infection. But because Ellie's mother tells Marlene, no, I cut the umbilical cord first, nobody actually has that information. I think it kind of dampens the choice. It makes it replicable. If that's the means to get the cure, then Ellie actually didn't need to be killed. We just needed to have another woman go through that exact same thing during childbirth, which is almost equally awful, but still a possibility. It removes Ellie being the most important thing there, which kind of strange. It's a very, very tense scene. It's beautiful. Marlene's choice there, the exchange that she has with Ellie's mom was all very powerful. A great opening sequence, regardless of the outcome or the implications. I thought it was very, very, very powerful. Very gripping, harrowing start, especially when it's right next to Joel and Ellie being very happy, very, very peaceful at the very start of the episode. Because I guess they don't really know what they're walking towards. And of course, we have the two of them slowly heading towards actually seeing the fireflies, to wrapping up this journey that they've been on for so long. Again, it doesn't feel that long. The giraffe scene was wild, and I know that giraffe was real, but for some reason it really looks like CG. I was like, is that because they had to like digitally edit out the reflection of the blue screen on the giraffe? It really doesn't look real. I don't know why. But that was there. Of course, we had Ellie needing to get a ladder and then somehow seeing the giraffe and running away very quickly. I don't even know how she saw it from inside that building, to be fair. But Ellie's a little bit cold, stunted, sort of in shock at the start of the episode, obviously as a reaction to the violence just committed against David. And then they have a conversation as they're heading through a sort of medical zone about how Joel tried to kill himself. And he kind of alludes to, I think Ellie says something like time heals all wounds. And he kind of alludes to the wound being open even post him trying to kill himself and failing, but that the wound was finally closed by her, by his relationship with Ellie. And I unfortunately just don't totally buy it. And it's such a shame. And I do think it's a result of the lack of time. I think that there was something maybe to be said for, and of course this is just my opinion, but something to be said for the threat of the infected and the clickers, etc., and what they do to that relationship. And I think the absence of them in the show is something that seems like it's very easy to do. Like, it's a show about these people, we don't actually need the infected. And a lot of the part I would agree with that. But I think that the infected add tension and they require the two to really look after each other pretty much consistently. There's more desperation. While they certainly had run-ins with very bad people, The lack of hostility from the outside world, I think, probably did make their relationship a little bit less believable. I just ultimately don't feel like they bonded all that much. I think that Ellie was very harsh with Joel a lot of the time. Joel was very quiet in response to her a lot of the time. The twist almost being in this episode where like Joel is suddenly extremely friendly, still feels a little bit abrupt. I think that in the amount of time that they were allotted, maybe it was like HBO was like only 9 episodes. In the 9 episodes, I think they did a fantastic job of showing the relationship between these two characters. I just wish we had a couple more episodes, I think. Just a couple more. Or at the very least, it doesn't feel as strong as it does in the game for me personally, that bond between the two of them. And again, I think it's way easier to bond in the game when you have to yourself look after Ellie. You yourself are protecting her, or she's protecting you. You know, when Ellie actually starts shooting people, she takes people down. And so because you are so active in that story and the way that that story is told, it's so much easier for you to care about Ellie. I think they've done a very, very, very good job with what they had. And I think this is a brilliantly made show. And I wonder if, you know, I wouldn't feel this way if I couldn't stop comparing it, or if I could stop comparing it to the game, but it's so hard to do that personally for a game that so many of us have loved for so long. It's really hard to just like separate the two. But I just think, you know, so as we get past that conversation, you know, it didn't feel totally earned to me, but I still definitely liked it. And then inside of Firefly, where we learn that I think this was new to the show and it's not set in the game. Marlene says Ellie didn't know. She's calm. She had no idea. And I'm always like, we really should have asked her. Why did nobody just ask her? I feel like all of this would be a lot easier if she had just been asked. I thought that him taking out the fireflies was beautifully shot. The silence and the music and basically watching him run through and execute people in order to save her. That was very, very, very well done. And I think it is really interesting seeing it versus playing it, because playing it, you feel compelled to do so. You go, whoa, 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 no, I can't let her die. You feel that way, you know, like it's so overwhelming because we have such a sense of, we just feel so protective of Ellie by the end of the game. So I don't think it hit anywhere near as hard in the show, unfortunately. Maybe because, again, it's a more passive experience. But I don't know. That rampage he's going on was really well shot, and I thoroughly enjoyed seeing him turn into the monster when, you know, he's in theory been protecting her from the monster this whole time. But it definitely didn't hit quite as hard as I would have expected. And I wonder if maybe it would have helped if the Fireflies seemed a little bit more passive or kind. Like even the two that walk him out of the building, if they had been more passive, if they had been more friendly, more jovial, rather than seeming like Fedra or like Kathleen's men, because they still seem very armed. That maybe would have made it more brutal. But I think it's also a very odd shift for Joel to go like, he almost acts like he's a SWAT member here, which is something we've never seen of him before. It does seem kind of sudden. And they say all throughout the show, Joel's really violent, he's got this violent past. But I don't feel like we actually see all that much outside of the torture scene. We don't see it that often. So it is pretty abrupt and shocking. But again, that was all stuff that I really liked. I really liked the way that was shot. And I also appreciate that they don't paint it as him doing something heroic. In fact, in the show, I think he comes off looking even worse. It's also just so unbelievably selfish. Like, I love the ending of The Last of Us. I think it's brilliant. It's so selfish. He's saving her because he couldn't save Sarah. And he's probably been haunted the whole time by what happened to Sarah and what he could have done differently. And he's saving her just as therapy for himself. It is really, really interesting. And lying to her about it and not caring is just such a selfish thing to do when you're almost dying to save someone. It's so interesting. It's such an interesting concept. But I think the massive differences between Sarah and Ellie in this show also sort of hurt that a little bit. Like, I feel like Sarah and Ellie in the game look a little bit more similar, act a little bit more similar. Not entirely, but a little bit more. They're very, very different in the show. Sarah and Ellie are way different people, way different senses of humor, way different tones. They're just so, so, so different that it's kind of hard to rationalize in that way as well. I don't know. I just, I think it's so hard to separate the game from the show, but I just didn't quite buy it to the same extent. I would have liked more time with the infected, more threats on Joel and Ellie, more time with Joel and Ellie, maybe a couple more episodes. But I still think, across the board, fantastic performances, incredible set design, incredible production design, just a beautifully well-made show. Honestly, just makes me wish I hadn't played the game. I don't feel like it added a ton to my experience, except for some context surrounding some of the extra characters, which I did appreciate. But for the most part, yeah, I feel like I walk away like feeling jealous of everybody who just saw the show. But I guess they probably think the same thing. Like, people who have seen the show and are now going to play the game for the first time probably feel the opposite way. I don't know. So yeah, I think it's probably biased and I just can't remove myself from it. But overall, I think it's a very, very good show. I think it's fantastically well made, but I just don't think it resonated with me emotionally anywhere near as much as the game did. And it's so hard to remove that mindset for me personally. I know a lot of people have been disagreeing with me about this across the board in the comments of previous episodes where I felt like I said it was too rushed, or I wasn't loving how harsh Ellie was because I feel like they needed a bond faster, and I think I stand by that. But I feel like it maybe also just boils down to, you know, we only had like 7 or 8 hours with them in the show, whereas in the game it's 10 to 12. It's not a lot of time to develop a relationship that somebody is going to like risk mankind over. And also, again, because there aren't as many infected, the risk of mankind, like even needing the cure, doesn't hit that hard. Like watching the show, it occurred to me multiple times. I was like, give it a few years and all the infected will just die out because there's like none of them left, which is probably not something you should be thinking under this context. So that is my take on this final episode and the season in general. I intend to now actually go and listen to the podcast that Troy has been hosting, the official Last of Us HBO podcast, I think it's called. And then I was going to watch through the show again. I'll probably wait a little bit to do that though, but it's been really fun chatting to everybody about this. I'm still hoping some point this week I'll do this review discussion or roundup of this final episode with some guests. I just, a lot going on at the moment, so I haven't planned that yet, but hopefully we'll still get to that this week. But that is it for all this Last of Us content. I'm sorry for flooding your feeds with this so much. I do still have one more stream to do to catch up to the finale, which will be on my Twitch channel, where we're going to play through the last episode of the show and talk about it sometime this week. Other than that, thank you all for watching. I'm Alanah. I will see you guys next time. Bye!